A famous circuit, a famous driver driving for a famous team, and that will go down as a pretty famous win for Fernando Alonso. An epic race, racing right up until the wire there. Lewis Hamilton just keeping Felipe Massa at bay, and the two Red Bulls going toe-to-toe. Eddie, it was a race befitting for this brand new look Silverstone circuit, wasn't it?
It was absolutely a thrilling race. We had no real idea. There was intrigue all the way from the very start, with the wet and the dry changing conditions. This for me was a fabulous race, in line with what we saw in Canada. A fabulous, really great encounter.
And you just saw a shot there from the helicopter. When they first built this and they put the podium here, everybody said, well, the podium isn't facing the fans. It is now, because the fans are on the track. An incredible atmosphere here today. But how will Christian Horner be feeling? His cars were going toe-to-toe, and he had to make a call on the radio. Let's hear from him.
Well, Christian, I thought Red Bull were a team that didn't make team orders.
No, it's a team result, and the circumstances earlier in the race. Sebastian had a KERS issue that we were dealing with as well in the last thing, and the last thing you want to do is see the team give away a whole load of points. So from a team position point of view, we decided that it was best to hold the positions in that final 2 laps.
That means that
obviously, Mark disagreed with that, but, it's all about, the thing is, I can understand he's maybe frustrated, but from a team point of view, we can't afford to give away a whole load of points.
Well, that means that Webber's out of the championship then this year.
No, not at all, but, you get to that stage in the race, we'd, managed situations earlier in the race to, get Mark ahead, give him the undercut effectively, and with the final 2 laps, it was entirely the sensible thing to do. The last thing you want to see is both of your drivers in the fence, which is how that probably would have ended up.
So how many times had you told him to hold station, and how many times had he ignored you?
The message was quite clear to him what the team expected, not what I expected, what the team collectively expected.
Okay, relations between you and Mark Webber?
Yeah, he should be fine with that. He's a team player. It was crystal clear this morning when we went into the race that it was all about getting the most points that we can out of this event. Obviously we've had a rear jack issue with Sebastian that cost him the track position to Fernando. That's racing. Sometimes these things can happen, but Ferrari was quick today, but second and third is still a very strong team result.
Thank you.
And how ironic that right here 12 months ago it was Mark Webber saying not bad for a number 2 driver as he crossed over the line. Mark Webber in this situation certainly a number 2 driver, but Eddie, you can understand Christian Horner's stance there?
I don't think there's any issue with Christian Horner. What he said was make perfect sense. He is the boss, overseeing not just the team principals, the sponsors, everything. That's what's expected to be done. Absolutely the right call at the right time, no dramas, absolutely perfect.
I think effectively what Christian was saying there is that yes, our drivers are allowed to race, but when Vettel's had a dodgy pit stop and Vettel's struggling with his KERS and you're in the final lap of a race, that's when we need to make a decision.
Look, at the moment, what has been achieved by Christian and the Red Bull team today, for me, is absolutely, they have won the Constructors' Championship. Nobody can possibly come close to them, and it's as a result of the guile and the sensibility of the people on the pit wall. They made a call, may not be to everyone's satisfaction, and Mark, who we all adore, may not be to his satisfaction, but it was the right thing to do.
I think we know that it certainly will not be to Mark Webber's satisfaction, but at the end of the day, despite the fact that the fans tend to support individual drivers, the teams have to support the team, and if they'd swapped the cars there on track, if Mark had got through, we wouldn't have the situation we have, which is a situation where Sebastian's come here and extended his lead in the championship from 77 to 80 points, and that has got to be the aim for Red Bull.
Yeah, that may be the case, but how silly would they look if the two ran into each other? How silly would Mark look? How silly would Sebastian? And more especially the management of the team, led by Christian, they would look complete idiots. And they're not in the business of looking idiots. They're a very skillful team. They make very good cars and they make good decisions. This was, I don't even know why we're necessarily talking too much about it, except that people want to see their driver win. But in this case, it's a team issue, for heaven's sake. There's not a person in the world who wouldn't have made this decision, in my view.
OK, well, it's Fernando Alonso who finished at the front, and if you thought that Fernando Alonso's celebrations were impressive, you should see the crowd down here on the track. It's rather interesting, Eddie, that they decide after a race like that to chant your name and not Fernando Alonso's name.
I think they're making a mistake here. Maybe I have a Latin look about me or something like that, but It is. It's an emotional thing. Can you imagine what it must be like on the top of the podium? This is this is exactly why I said earlier today and even yesterday, there is something magical. You cannot buy the atmosphere, the excitement, just everything that's going on at Silverstone. And what happens? The sun comes out just to join us in this great day of celebration of this new circuit here behind us.
We said for a long time it would be lovely for the crowd to come on the track just like they do in Monza. That's exactly what they've done here. And talking of Monza, of course, that's where Fernando Alonso picked up a win in his first season with Ferrari. Things seem to be going his way at the moment, don't they? Certainly this weekend, the changes they've made to those cars has helped Ferrari, but it was still Fernando's incredible drive that picked up the win for him. We'll talk about that drive in detail in just a moment, but first, let's hear from the drivers in the press conference.
Fernando, your first win of the season for you and Ferrari. You were gifted the lead, obviously, by Red Bull, but do you feel you forced the mistake today?
Well, I don't know. It's difficult to know. I saw the problem in the pit stop with Sebastian, and we were in the lead in that moment. I didn't know because also I was fighting with Hamilton and with Mark. So when I left the pits, and I found myself leading the race and then pulling a good gap. You never know. Obviously, the race was in very different conditions. We started with a very wet part in the circuit. Then it was a little bit dry, but still with intermediate tires. Then the intermediate were struggling a little bit, and we were very quick in that part of the race. And then with the dry tires, it was again the same thing. Very slow at the beginning when the track was damp, and very quick when the track was dry. So I knew that it was a race to be calm, to put the car on the track always, no mistakes, not being off the track at any moment, because the grass obviously is very wet. And with no mistakes, I knew that the car had enough pace to fight for the victory, and at the end it came.
It was a great battle with Hamilton. Tell us about the pass and the repass.
Well, as I said, he overtook me quite easy. When we fit the dry tires, he was very, very quick at that part of the race. So we were fourth. We stayed calm. We knew that our opportunity will be later in the race. And when I overtook him again, it was, again, thanks to the DRS and thanks to the curves and all these possibilities that we have in these days. And then we attack the Red Bulls, because from now on will be always the same thing. Every race we try to do like a final. Championship hopes are very difficult because Sebastian keeps finishing all the races first or second. So the only thing we can do is try to win every race we go and be very aggressive every race, every start, every strategy will be at the maximum.
Well done. Sebastian, obviously the pit stop cost you the lead, but were Ferrari onto you today anyway, do you think?
Well, I think it's hard to say, how much we lost, but surely we lost the lead, and I think we had quite a bit of a cushion at that stage. So, it didn't help all in all. And Fernando then, obviously, I came out behind Fernando and Lewis, and I struggled to get past, really. I had, some places where it was quite close with him, but it didn't quite work. So we went in for the stop and obviously had a longer stint at the end. But I think all in all, we had a very good race. It was very difficult in these conditions. I had a brilliant start and was able to pull away quite good at the beginning of the race on intermediate tires. Then I think, obviously we waited a little bit and we weren't that aggressive, which cost us a bit of our lead, plus then the pit stop. So all in all, little mistakes here and there, but you cannot get it right all the time. And I think you have to accept fair and square that Ferrari beat us today. They did, not only to this race, also I think there has been a certain trend over the last couple of races. They have been very strong on race day on Sunday and generally improving their car. So, it shows us that we need to keep on working very hard and keep pushing very hard. So, that soon it is the other way around again.
You were very, very close to the back of Lewis Hamilton as well in the Winter Cups and one lap, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I mean, I thought that this was the only place really where I could try something. And on that lap, I think I even had a too good exit. So got off the corner very well, and then I was too close. I was sitting behind, and in that right kink where the old pit box or the old pit building is, you can't really do anything there. So I was too close to use my momentum later on. So I had to lift, and I don't think there was much left. Obviously, we don't see the front wing, but yeah, it was very, very close, but good fun.
Well done. Mark, you lost the start, obviously, to Sebastian, but what happened at the end? You seemed to be closing in, but you couldn't get past him.
Well, it was a mixed race, as the guys touched on. It was very, very slippery and tricky at the start with the inters, half the track dry, half the track wet. Made it very frustrating to, obviously, all of us had to stay out longer than the inters when we would have liked, probably because we had to wait for the slicks to come into play at that part of the track. Obviously, Michael pitted first, and we're waiting to hear on his pace for the slicks. And then when he started to go okay, then we elected to stop. And yeah, just before on the in-lap, I had a massive moment in Beckett. So Fernando closed a bit on me. I went across the grass and come in. So a bit scrappy there. And then we had an interesting race after that. Obviously, it felt very strong at the start of the stints, not too strong at the end of the stints. And then obviously both Seb and I were in big trouble with the tyres at the end. I tried to pass him, but not quite. So yeah, that was the race.
Are you surprised at how tough a battle you've been given here this weekend by McLaren and Ferrari?
Not really. I think Ferrari, we've seen in the last few events, is going pretty well. You never know. I mean, Sundays are always difficult with these. It's all about the tyres, as we know. McLaren looked absolutely, in trouble yesterday, and then today they weren't too bad at all. Very quick, and they did a clean job in the pit lane. Obviously, I don't think we had the best day in the box today. It's not normal for a guy. So every now and again, you can't be perfect all the time in there. So that was it.
Well, that's now 4 pole positions in a row that Mark Webber hasn't turned into the top step of the podium, because the man who was standing on the top step is Fernando Alonso, and we're here with the team principal from Ferrari, Stefano Domenicali. Not even a podium here at Silverstone since 2007, and now you pick one up and you pick up the top step. What an incredible race.
Yeah, you're right, Jack. I mean, I think that today was really incredible for everyone, for the show that there was on the track, different condition. I mean, if there has to be a director to have, for all what is happening, to have half of the track wet, half of the track dry. I mean, it's incredible. So I think that really was good for Formula 1 today, and I'm very pleased, of course, for our team that did a great job, for Fernando that had an incredible race, but also for Felipe that he tried after the last moment to attack Lewis. So very happy today.
And how important is it to see these shots of your driver spraying champagne over his engineers underneath him, knowing that coming into this weekend, he said, if we're going to challenge Red Bull and Sebastian Vettel, it's now or never?
I mean, for sure it's great. That shows the way that we are, but it's good also to see the atmosphere that was on the podium with Mark and Sebastian. That is what I like of Formula 1. Tough fight on the track, but they were respecting each other. Were congratulations between all of them. But we will see, because now we need to relax maybe a little bit tonight, and then we move to the next race.
Stefano, I've got to ask you, the change of rules surely has played absolutely into your hand. You were very quiet in the forerunner of this particular rule change. Is this what happened for you?
No, I mean, I was very quiet because I think that in this moment all the polemics is not good for anyone. So we were trying to be cooperative as always, to trying to find the best solution, and that's the way that we have to do. I mean, I don't like to be in front of the camera for this reason. And we were working very hard, following the instruction of the new thing that was coming out. But I think that this success is a well-deserved success for the job that the people at home have done, and that's it.
We just want to sort of have clarity on this. Have all the teams now agreed that from the next race we will have one standard spec and we're going to revert back to the previous specs? Just let us know exactly where we're at so that we don't need to ever discuss it again. Oh, nice.
Advertising time.
Okay, can I ask you one quick question then?
I think that we are on the right direction, yes.
You had a nice conversation with...
very little to us.
Fernando.
That's good.
Sorry, Stefano. You had a nice conversation with Fernando in Italian before getting out onto the podium. I heard him mention mosquito. What was this mosquito reference?
I mean, no, because if you see the visor of Fernando, it was full of mosquitoes. I said, you were driving in a normal countryside or you were driving on the track? So he said it was incredible. But also Sebastian said there was a lot of mosquitoes on the track. So I would say, surprised to see this kind of visor.
Talking of such things, Lewis was a bit of a fly in the ointment at the end there, especially for Felipe Massa. We're asking the question as to whether we think this may well go to the steward's inquiry. Just talk us through this. Well, you know how much Lewis loves being there. Talk us through this and explain whether you think this is totally fair and that these positions should stand with Lewis finishing in front of Felipe. There's the contact.
I think that is... My view is a fight on the track. I don't see anything strange, to be honest. And we tried again, and unfortunately, we really tried to the maximum, and then Lewis was at the end on the entry on the inner side of the last corner. So another corner maybe would have been for sure different. Sorry, maybe not maybe for sure. But it's all right.
Well, that's great sporting stuff to see that you say that just as racing on track. We were discussing that in commentary, but anyway,
I see it for the first time now.
Okay, well, it's great for you to come and join us. I suppose the only slight issue is that once again Sebastian's extended his lead, but it's only 80 points. Hey, you can make that up in no time, can't you?
Well, we will see. Never say never.
Never say
That's
never.
the way that we have to approach race by race. For sure, we know that it's tight, but as I said, the Ferrari never give up, and let's see what is going to be the result in Germany.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining
Thanks
us.
to
And
all
it's
of you.
amazing how popular you are when you win a race, isn't it? Look at that.
I didn't pay anything. So
These are all your friends, I'm sure.
For sure.
They're not
All
EJs.
cousins. No.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
Lovely to see you. Congratulations, Stefano. Okay, well, let's confirm then the result of this pretty special British Grand Prix today. And as you've just heard from Stefano Domenicali, the man at the front was Fernando Alonso. Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber coming close towards the end there. We've heard from Christian Horner about why it finished with Mark Webber sitting third. Lewis Hamilton, we'll talk about his wonderful drive in just a few moments. Nico Rosberg performing pretty well for Mercedes, and once again Sergio Perez looking after his tyres. Nick Heidfeld turned around a poor qualifying yesterday, and Michael Schumacher, an incident-packed race for him, but he managed to make it work, and Jaime Alguersuari finishes off the point score as the third successive race that he's finished in the points. Paul di Resta, it was looking so good. He started sixth on the grid, an issue at the pit stop. They nearly put his teammates' tyres on his car, which means that he finishes well out of the points. And Daniel Ricciardo, on his debut in Formula One, ends up just in front of the guys who finished with DNFs in a very, very disappointing day for Team Lotus, considering that yesterday Heikki Kovalainen made it into the second part of qualifying. So there we go. As we just mentioned, it's an 80-point gap between Sebastian Vettel and his nearest challenger. The best news of all for Red Bull, of course, his nearest challenger is now his teammate Fernando Alonso sitting third. Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button tied on points with 109 points each, but Lewis Hamilton occupies fourth spot. And Eddie said to me as we walked out underneath the podium, this means it's the end for the Constructors' Championship. Eddie, looking at these points, you think this is all over?
Well, I can't see mathematically how anyone can come back from over 100 points deficit. Certainly in the way Red Bull are performing, the car is so reliable, both drivers are performing. For me, it's over.
Okay, well, one man who's given us tremendous action here over the years is Lewis Hamilton. Let's go through his race, and it was an incredible start for him, up to sixth on just the first lap alone, David.
Yeah, Lewis is such a racer, gets away, not actually a wonderful start, but that didn't hold him back at all. He goes over to the left-hand side of turn one, which allows him to position his car. Obviously difficult conditions for them going off with the intermediate tyres. And at this stage he hasn't made any moves, but look at this, down the outside into what is turn 3 on this new start circuit, and that allows him to be in the inside position as he goes into the loop.
I just think that people say about the frustration Lewis Hamilton. Yes, he had a horrible qualifying yesterday, but you know, isn't this so exciting to see somebody coming and, you know, fight, eventually getting up into the top 3 and fighting again possibly for a win. I just love the way that Lewis's mindset is about the way he goes about racing, and he should be an encouragement for everyone else.
He's a natural born racer.
And this is him going past his teammate Jenson Button. There were some great overtakes from Lewis, particularly here at the end of the Wellington Straight in the first few laps.
Well, you know, without going on and repeating myself, this is what the crowd come to pay for. They want to see a British driver with spirit, with passion, and with speed. And you've got all of those three in abundance in this guy. I love the way he goes about his racing, and I will forgive him for the little indiscretions that he does have from time to time, because overall, he's an inspiration. I love it.
And at this point, Lewis moving into third place, overtaking Fernando Alonso. People started talking about Lewis could win this Grand Prix from 10th at this point, David.
Well, I'm not sure who was talking about that, but it was certainly brave stuff here on the wet down into Cox Corner. And at that stage of the race, in those changeable conditions, Lewis was definitely one of the fastest cars on the track. But as the circuit dried out, then sadly he started to be in a position where he just wasn't quick enough. So what does that tell McLaren? What is it that was working for them in those changeable conditions that didn't work when they started to dry out?
Okay, what kind of thing could that be? Because Lewis drove a great race, Eddie, both overtaking people early doors when he needed to, and actually he was defending brilliantly from Sebastian Vettel at this stage.
He was indeed, but look, I will just cast your mind back to a pit stop. We saw, you know, the spanners out to make sure that they got more and more front wing onto both of the cars. It's possible that they probably destroy the rear and maybe damage the tyres. We just don't know enough about it. But when you're drastic and making changes like that in pit stops, it's never easy to come back from it.
Yeah, well, this is the battle at the end of this Grand Prix, and we can see Massa lining up, goes down the outside of Club Corner. And at
Do
this
you
stage,
agree
is
with
ahead.
Stefano?
Yeah, I think it's great that Stefano says that, because, you know, you can't have health and safety going crazy all the time. You know, I think the rules are that if there is contact, the stewards can look into it. But in the end, that was a great battle. Lewis, you know, he's on the inside here. He can't make his car disappear. Felipe gives him a bit of space. There's a little bit of contact there as Felipe tries to come back for the right-hand part of Club Corner. But I don't think there's any intent in that. That's just wheel-to-wheel racing.
David, I'd like to ask you a question. Would Lewis have made the corner had he not got a battering ram of Massa to fall up against?
Yeah, I think so. He'd
Well,
made it
it's
the
the
previous
front.
51 times, so I think he would have made it through that
you
time.
have to ask again. That tyre was completely locked up, and it's marginal whether he would have made it around. Certainly, from the way I saw the camera angle there, it was. I'm not saying there's anything wrong, but that's part of the game.
There you go. That's part of the game, and it's a game that meant that Lewis Hamilton finished fourth. Let's hear from him.
Wow, well, first of all, let's start at the end. What an incredible last lap.
I know. That was as close as it's going to get. It was crazy. I first of all, the team did a fantastic job with all the pit stops, and really today, coming here, knowing the support we had. I mean, I've never seen so many people at Silverstone. The support we have here is far greater and beyond any driver will get anywhere else, I believe. And so I'm massively thankful for that. But so I could feel them spurring me on, and I had a good start, made some places up. Unfortunately, at the end, with 20 laps to the end or something, I had to save fuel massively. So I had to give Mark Webber give them position, and then they kept telling me. And then the last lap, they said, "Okay, now you can push." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks." After I've let him catch me up, so it was, but I was not giving him that position. No way.
Is it frustrating for you as a driver to be told to save fuel quite early on? I think there was over 10 laps to go at that stage, and then we heard you on your radio saying, "You're not giving me enough information." There's a lot for you to take in.
Yeah, because you're always trying to drive to the fine line, and of course, I think the guys in front, the Ferraris and the Red Bulls, they didn't look like they had to save fuel. So that's not a positive on our side, but I really just trying to get. They tell me to go to this delta, but I want to make sure that I'm always there, not too much, not too little. I don't want to save too much fuel. I want to make sure that I can still keep my position. So I did the best job I could, and really just so grateful and thankful when I came across the line. The support I had was as if I'd won. So thank you to everyone.
And a fantastic last lap. It was like you and Felipe were driving, thinking, well, we don't really need that front wing for very much longer, so let's just go for it.
No, I think Felipe, for me, I was struggling massively. Because I having to fuel save, that means you're having to lift and coast. It means my brake temperatures had dropped. I had no brakes pretty much. That's why I kept locking up. My left front was just cold. And I knew breaking into there I was going to struggle, so I tried to keep myself on the inside. He braked massively late on the outside. And I was stopping as fast as I could. And then he just tried closing the door, I guess, and then we came together. But I went over the edge of the curb and got the exit. I hope that I was ahead. I think I was, isn't I? Thank God.
Hopefully you and Felipe won't be visiting the stewards later on anyway.
Oh no, I've got like a platinum card for the stewards, so I expect to be
You
there.
could probably use the lounge now.
Yeah. I'm actually gonna go straight from here to the stewards. Just sit there and wait rather than go back and come back.
Okay, we won't hold you up. Thanks, Lewis.
Thank you.
Oh, very good. Yeah, Lewis gets fast track to the stewards these days, and here are the people that were inspiring Lewis as he was making his way around there. And you see these wonderful shots, Eddie, and you just think that things just haven't been going Lewis's way this season. Just when he needed speed out of that car today, that dreaded message came across, and David knows how it feels to receive that message. You've got to save fuel.
Well, it's not just a fuel issue. There's nothing worse from demoralising a driver in the middle of a full sweep, gets himself into a rhythm, and then you hear this thing, save fuel, save fuel. There's nothing worse, because then you know you're on the back foot immediately. But it's not that, and pardon the pun here, Jake, but I want to know, have the wheels come off of McLaren? Because really, they seem to have really suffered here. It's a really grim day for them. They have a lot of soul searching to do.
Well, that's the question, isn't it, David? Because you'd say that this was a great weekend for Ferrari. Okay, they've won another race. A great weekend for Red Bull. They've extended their lead in the championship. McLaren, and we can see things going right and wrong for Jenson Button here. First of all, him getting past Felipe Massa, but then things going very wrong at the pit stop. There are issues at McLaren at the moment.
Well, this was a great pass by Jenson. Really difficult to hang it out around the outside of Stowe Corner. Full marks to Felipe Massa for giving him space, and then they run who's the last of the late breakers down into. It's almost a replay of what Felipe was trying to do with Lewis later in the Grand Prix. So great racing instinct from the two of them there.
And that pass, or this pass, should I say, didn't deserve what happened to Jensen afterwards. I mean, it's great to see him driving like this, and sometimes he's accused of not being aggressive enough when he's driving. There's absolutely no talk of that here. Look at that, right out on the paint.
And right out on the point, and just behind the paint is the artificial grass, which will be laden with water, of course. So brave stuff, and then super slow-mo action there as he gets down into club corner.
And then this happened. He decided to go into the pits. Things went a little bit wrong. Just explain very quickly if you can, because they are quick, what happened here.
Well, it's front right. If you watch there, the man has the gun's dropped out of his hand, or he's thrown the gun down to get the spare gun, and then for whatever reason, the lollipop man has allowed the car to be released. So there was no wheel nut on that wheel at all, and the only thing that's keeping it in place is the sort of retaining safety device. So you can see, if we get a replay of that, we'll be able to see him dropping the wheel gun and trying to pick up the next gun. I'm not sure if we have a chance to see a replay.
I don't think we do. No,
we don't.
But it's amazing how good a driver he is when he doesn't know his left from his right.
I think we are going to take another little look at this. So let's watch the front right Jack gunman. There he is. Look at him. He's got his gun on. Pulls the wheel off. Now wait until you see again. He's going to throw that gun. Once this man steps back on the right hand side, watch. He throws away the gun, and then he goes, picks up another gun, and at that moment, the car's been released.
Yeah. What the lollipop man would have been waiting for is a hand on top of the wheel to say, I've changed the wheel, off he goes. Sadly, that never came. It meant that Jensen had to retire from the race, and here he is.
Jensen, what a disappointing end to your race.
Yeah.
Any more to add? When did you first realise? Was it actually in the pit stop or when you headed out?
It was when I headed out. As I turned up the hill, the wheel came off, so I stopped immediately. But yeah, very disappointing, and we all make mistakes, but you always hope they never happen. Disappointing also because it's in front of the home crowd, and I was really enjoying the race. Had a good couple of battles out there, and the pace was very good before my stop. I caught up with Lewis, Sebastian, and Mark, and they peeled off, and I stayed out for one more lap, and it was all looking pretty sweet, and I think I would have come out alongside Mark, if not in front of Mark, when I made my pit stop. So much could have happened, and we could have had, there's always a possibility of a podium when you're that high up and the pace is good. So yeah, disappointing, and hopefully we won't have this sort of issue again.
As you say, you showed us in Montreal, and we saw again today how late that the race pecking order can change. I know it's easy to sort of talk about it now, but where do you think you could have ended up?
I think you have to say that anyone that had pace near the end had a chance for a podium, and I definitely had pace. On the previous stint, I caught up with the three guys in front. On the inter tyre, I just couldn't get it working. To be fair, it's been all weekend though. And then when we put the dries on, I felt really good, and the pace was good on that stint. And I just got up to the back of Webber. He pitted, and then I carried on for another lap, knowing that I'd have a bit more at the end of the race. Pit stop was very quick. Our pit stops have been better, I think, than Red Bull here. I'm not sure, but it seems that way. And the guy on the front right lost the wheel nut, went to take another wheel nut. But as he turned, his hand moving, I think that the guy on the front jet saw that, and he reacted to that, thinking that was okay, let's go. And then the lollipop lifted, and that was it. So a pity, because I think it could have been a great race.
But to look at a positive, there was a cracking overtaking manoeuvre with Felipe Massa, where you were very brave and you stuck it out onto a sort of uncertain bit of track at that stage, and your tyres weren't that warm, so I think that gave the crowd plenty to cheer about.
Good. I didn't really have a choice where I put the car on the exit. He sort of forced me there, but it was very enjoyable, and Lewis got Fernando the next lap as well, so I think we gave the fans something to cheer about, but just sorry we couldn't do better today. I think there was definitely a podium there. I don't think we would have been able to fight with Fernando, who was too fast, but I think the Red Bulls would have been interesting competition. But I didn't seem to have as many fuel issues as maybe Lewis did. Maybe because I wasn't very quick at the start of the race. I conserved more fuel. Basically sorry to the fans, and I wish we could have done more. But seems that way at the British Grand Prix for me over the last few years. But come back next year, and hopefully we'll have a strong car, and we won't make any mistakes.
Another very, very difficult British Grand Prix for Jenson Button. 12 times he's raced here, yet to finish on the podium, and today was really disappointing. We're joined by Gary Pavitt now, who is the reserve and test driver at McLaren. He's been wheeled out to try and explain some of the things that went on in that race for the team, and I suppose the first thing that we need to talk about is how Lewis's fuel can be so wrong during the Grand Prix, because clearly the fuel saving he was having to do was pretty hefty.
Yeah, so we realised quite early in the race that he was going to be low on fuel towards the end of middle of the race, and he had to start saving fuel pretty early in the race with quite a lot of laps to go. I mean, the reason for it is you do your calculations of how much fuel you need from your Friday running on heavy fuel, from your long runs, and from your pace, and we didn't get that information this weekend. There was no heavy fuel running on Friday, and our pace in the race was better than expected. So really we started to use a lot more fuel, even though it was damp at the start of the race, than we expected.
Gary, you've just recently re-signed with McLaren. Congratulations. Is that to replace Lewis Hamilton when he leaves next year?
That would be very nice, but I think he's going to be staying around. But no, for me, it's great to be working with the team. I've worked with the team since 2005 full time, and hopefully we can build a quick enough car for Lewis to want to stay and win championships with us.
I'm just intrigued to know how much of a calculation can you get wrong on that fueling, though, because you've got 8 races experience to know, right, if all else fails, this is the amount of fuel we should need to complete this Grand Prix. They go to the first Grand Prix in Melbourne, they've got no previous knowledge. So how can it be that far out?
I think the key was just not doing the Friday running, really, and in the race our pace was better. In qualifying we were 1.5 seconds slower than the Red Bulls and Ferraris, and we weren't that much slower than them in the race. And I think that's the difference. When you go out and you're suddenly surprised by your speed, it's quite encouraging, but then on the other hand you're using a lot more fuel than you expected. So clearly the other guys got it right and we got it slightly wrong. So
okay, well, your speed during the race has been so much better than qualifying all year long. You shouldn't have been surprised, I suppose, is the message, and I'm sure you'll take that to Germany, and it's another lesson learned this season for McLaren.
Absolutely, it's not been an easy season, but we're there or thereabouts. We were close today, nearly got a podium today, which would have been fantastic, but not quite. But yeah, we'll keep pushing. Hopefully at Germany we can get back on the podium and start celebrating.
Okay, Gary, thank you very much. No celebrations tonight, but enjoy the sunshine anyway. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And Gary's actually racing against David at the moment in German touring cars in the DTM, and of course that's where Paul di Resta was last year. He was the champion, he stepped into Formula One, and he is having an impressive rookie season. His best moment so far, without doubt, was qualifying yesterday, which meant, David, he started on the intermediate tyres along with everybody else in these wet, dry conditions from 6th on the grid.
Yeah, and he made a good start. Look at that, he was right up behind Felipe Massa into turn 1, backs out of it, being a little bit conservative through 2. And then difficult situation here. Nobody quite knows what to expect in the run into this first corner, but keeps it nice and safe and tidy. And you see a small amount of oversteer. He's actually going for the inside there. He's made the pass, I think. Oh no, Massa's come back, but mixing it with the Ferrari.
And perhaps at this point we should pass over to the man himself. Paul, we're riding on board with you at the start. Would you mind picking up where David left off and just talking us through what it was like on that first lap?
Quite tricky, the actual start was dry where the start line was, but once you got round there, the car was a bit of a handful. Visibility was quite difficult as well. So I mean, for me it was just caution. After the Canada experience, it was all about just making sure I was on in the first lap. Challenge the others in front was going to be difficult, and just going really forward as best as I could.
Paul, was it some way the wrong thing to happen? You wanted the reverse, didn't you? Qualifying 6th puts you under so much pressure. You'd have probably preferred the other way around to make a charge.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was a great day, but I think you can go away fairly happy with your qualifying lap. It's disappointing in the race, but it was out with my control. I got the call, I came in the pits, and unfortunately the wrong set of tyres was sitting there. You had to be patient. There was a bit of confusion on the team's behalf, and there's not much you can do, but just really go for it. And from that point, we were lost. Maybe we were going to be a bit ambitious anyway, coming in that early.
Just explain to us how this happens, because I'm sure that your heart was sinking as you were sitting in that car and the time was ticking away. Were you told to come into the pits?
I was told to come in, and then I got a call when I was actually in the pit lane to stay out, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm in. You need to be ready for me. But by that point, there was a bit of confusion on the wall from the chief engineer, who I think had already tried to call the tyres for the other car, and messages just got a bit confused. It can easily happen.
Indeed, I know it has happened to me on several occasions. There's nothing worse than changing conditions and the two engineers not coordinating with the team principal or the team manager, because unfortunately things like this happen. So, big shame for you.
And then we had the Buemi incident. Was this a case of serious frustration from you at this point, or dealing with the conditions?
I wouldn't have said it was confused. I wouldn't have said it was. It was just that I had the DRS. He had just come out of the pits. I wanted to try and make my opportunities as best I could. And he maybe came a bit across in front of me, but there was no way of getting out of it. There's not much I can really say other than the racing.
So you're pretty chilled about that. You don't feel that he was closing the door, or should have been aware that you were there?
He was closing the door, and he, at the end of the day, he didn't give me much room. He knew I was there, so I think he could have given me a bit more room. But at the end of the day, I can't honestly say that was going to make a difference to our race. Had that made a difference, then I would have been a bit more disappointed about it.
So how do you now reflect on your first British Grand Prix experience? Stunning qualifying. I know you would have wanted better than 15th today, but there's still plenty of reasons for you to be happy, aren't there?
Yeah, qualifying was superb, great feeling. The drivers' parade, the atmosphere was buzzing. That's all I can say. I've never seen anything
How many
like
soul
it.
ties did you see on
and
the way
I
around?
think even I was speaking to all the German guys, and they couldn't believe it, because normally their crowd get a bit going, but no, the British fans today were out in their numbers, and considering the weather conditions we've had this week, they're diehard. I take my hat off to them, and I'm sure they've had a good race other than what happened to me.
But this is good, you see, because obviously they all bought Scottish flags when he was driving. They had to pack them away for a few years, and now they can recycle them and bring them out.
Well, there is that. I just want to pick up. Paul normally is quite reserved when it comes to showing his emotions, but see the smile that broke over his face there when he was talking about the atmosphere of the crowd, the drivers' parade. There is something very special about the British Grand Prix in comparison to the others.
There is, and this new paddock's built an atmosphere. The whole weekend, I think, has been great. Hopefully with the new infrastructure that's going to come over the years, British motorsport is on a high, and hopefully it can continue like that.
It's on a high, and you're right at the centre of it at the moment. I think there's one last thing that you deserve. A round of applause for Paul di Resta, guys, making his debut here at the British Grand Prix. Great qualifying, so congratulations to you, and go and party like DC would have done in his days here. And he knows just what that means as well.
He's far too sensible to do that.
Nervous.
Come on. Shave the hair off.
All right, well done, congratulations. So another man making his debut in Formula One this season. In fact, making his debut here this weekend is Daniel Ricciardo from Australia. He started at the very back. How did he find it racing in the Hispania?
Well, I suppose all you could have asked for at your first Grand Prix was to see the checkered flag, so from that point of view, it went very well.
Yeah, it was. I guess that was the main aim for this weekend, to see that. So that was good, and it started off quite difficult with the weather, and it was quite close with the others. But then they started to pull away from me, and it was sort of doing my own race. It was a little bit boring at times, but the blue flags kept me occupied, and just trying to manage those was probably the most difficult thing. But I'm reasonably happy that I've got to the finish and got a bit of information to take with me and to progress for the next few.
I'm sure it'd be more boring if you were sitting watching it on television as you has been until now. Just tell us how your heart rate was doing. We spoke about this yesterday. How were you feeling when you were on the grid?
I was actually not too bad. I think I tried not to. It's a bit weird. I tried not to take too much of it in, because then maybe I would have hit the limiter a few times. But I just told myself it's another race, which reality it is. And I think starting from the back, there wasn't so much pressure, of having to really muscle someone out the way in the first few corners. So it was, I was quite relaxed actually.
I'm sure it's the first of many races. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Let's hope so, and he'll do well to do as many as Michael Schumacher. But despite all the years that Michael Schumacher's been driving for, he's giving us some of the best entertainment we've ever seen at the moment. I'm not sure he's finished any race this season with the same front wing that he started with, and the same again this week, David.
Well, it's interesting getting the chance to see that on replay. He was a long way back when he entered the actual turning point to that corner, which takes you into the stadium, into Brooklands. So, you can't say Kobayashi was at fault, but I think you can say that was just a racing incident. So possibly was a bit harsh getting the penalty. He came in, had to obviously take a new nose, which was penalty enough. And great comeback though from Michael. He had good pace. He's always been good around this circuit, and I think we've got to give him credit for coming back through into the points.
Yeah, sure about the credit, but actually I don't think there's any dispute about the penalty. The judges came out instantly. It wasn't even a discussion. They came out and there was the penalty was instant. So they saw it was clear. For me, he was too far behind, and of course then the release was a different matter. But the stewards were very clear about the decision, David.
Well, I would never argue with you.
And you'd never argue with Nigel Mansell either, because he was the driver's representative on the stewards panel today. I wonder what Michael Schumacher made of it all. Let's find out.
Michael, tell us about your race. It's sort of, you battled hard, made a good start, came into the pits for a little while and then had to battle back all over again.
Yeah, it was a battling Sunday, indeed, and a bit of a shame, because as tonight we have our home barbecue with all our staff. I was hoping to bring home some decent points, a couple of points obviously I bring them home, but that's not satisfying. So I'm very sorry for that, because it's clearly my fault. It's been the first moment that I had the chance to use DRS. Came with overspeed and misjudged the braking point and just slid into Kobayashi and lost the front wing. Did a whole lap without front wing, had a stop and go, plus 10 second stopping, which I'm not sure is totally correct because so far it was just a stop and go. I know the pit lane is shorter, but that's another matter. But with a stop and go with 10 seconds, you lose much more than previously has been the case. So in that respect, a bit of a shame. And then obviously strategy was slightly compromised, traffic that you have to battle through. I guess a fourth and fifth wouldn't have been out of question today for us.
So does the car feel better? Obviously there's been a lot of changes with these regs and everything like that. How does that apply to you?
Yeah, the guys did a great job. I mean, both in Brixworth at HPE, that I saw the guys on Thursday morning, and in the factory in Brackley. I mean, it was a superb job. It's something that I have to say, I see the upgrading of and the strengths of our team, because it was the first time we bring a new item on the track that is highly complicated, and we managed to put it on the car within short time and race it straight away without any complications. So well done on this one, and I hope I bring some more deserved points in future.
Enjoy the barbecue. Well done.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, poor old Michael. He said he wanted to go back to the barbecue down the road at Brackley with a nice big trophy for all the guys who work hard at Mercedes. Sadly, that won't be. And your thoughts from hearing that, David?
Well, it's interesting because we obviously find out more info as we get the interviews, and he was explaining it was the first time he'd used DRS.
Yeah.
He arrives there with overspeed. When you open DRS, you gain at least 10 miles an hour. I think the Mercedes system is one of the most effective, so he's probably gained even more speed. And you put on top of that, you're driving into a damp track at that stage of the Grand Prix. I think it does explain why he ended up being in the situation of, running into the back of Kobayashi. I don't know if that makes Eddie any happier about the incident or not.
It takes a lot to make Eddie a bit happier.
We've seen far too many cases of misjudgment with Michael Schumacher this year, and I think he himself should go away, take a group of those video clips and ask himself why. That's all. Why?
Okay, well, obviously there's racing royalty here, there's genuine royalty, Prince Harry's here, and some other sporting royalty.
Well, I just twigged on the corner of my eye, because this, for me, the British Grand Prix, is the best race on the calendar. And what happens next weekend? The British Open. And I want to ask the man who must be one of the favourites and local resident here, Mr. Ian Poulter, is the British Open the best golf tournament on the planet?
I think it's the purest golf tournament in the world, to be honest. It has everything. It's played on a links golf course, and that for me means it's very, very special.
Have you got a chance to win it?
Yeah, I've been down there practicing this week, Tuesday, Wednesday. I feel very good. I've been here having some fun this weekend, so I'm very relaxed and ready to go.
Well done, Ian.
Thanks, Eddie.
Well done indeed, Ian, and well done to Sergio Perez, who just by magic has dropped in to join us as well. Well, Sergio, congratulations today. Some points for you again. How was it out there?
Well, it was a difficult race. I'm very happy for the team, for everybody. It's been a difficult comeback for me. After my accident in Monaco, it hasn't been easy at all to get in the rhythm again, and now it's just my second race and score good points for the team. I think a good momentum is going ahead.
Sergio, can you explain to us a little bit? We're talking a lot about how to look after the tyres, and we saw different drivers out there trying to run off onto the wet to cool the tyres. We saw Sebastian Vettel doing that. How in the car can you influence that, or is it just part of your driving style? Can you do less pit stops than anyone else?
I think it's both. I think our car is quite good in saving tyres, and my driving style I can adapt it as well to the conditions, to the changing conditions that we had today. Today it was very difficult to save tyres because the limited factor is the front left. So I was behind Rosberg all the time, so losing a lot of aero, as you know, and it was very difficult to manage my tyres this race.
Okay, Sergio, another rookie doing the business, and you're looking after those tyres just perfectly. Thank you very much for joining us, and I'm sure you enjoyed your first experience of the British Grand Prix, but that is it for the British Grand Prix as far as we're concerned here on BBC One. The good news is that you can see the highlights with us tonight over on BBC Three from 7 o'clock, and just after that at 8 o'clock tonight, it is Top Gear featuring Sebastian Vettel looking to be the fastest man ever around the Top Gear track. I can't possibly tell you what happens, but I can tell you that I do know what happens. Right, we're now disappearing for the F1 Forum. Plenty to talk about. Are you going to press red and watch the F1 Forum?
of course.
That is the correct answer. Nothing to do with the fact you're live on the television with us, but congratulations, Sergio. David, thank you very much. Eddie, thanks to you as well. So, with a brand new look Silverstone, we wanted to give it its first race to remember. The perfect scenario would have been to marry it up with the British winner. Sadly, that wasn't to be, but hey, you can't always get what you want. It was still a classic. Bye-bye.
You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, well, you might find